Hey everyone, I'm really happy to finally announce that I'm launching a beta test of my budgeting app SpendBoard. This might sound a bit insane, but I actually started working on this app back in April 2023, so almost 3 years ago. And in this video, I want to share my experience of building this app, the problems I faced along the way, and the things I learned during all this time. But first of all, if you want to join the beta testing, the link is in the description down below. And now let's get started. So when I first started working on SpendBoard, it was just a side project next to my full-time job. And honestly, during the first month, I didn't even think that one day I would publish this app or show it to other people at all. But over time, I got so into this project that I set a goal for myself to build a full-featured, functional, and most importantly, user-friendly application. The very first idea behind this app was pretty simple, and I actually stick to it. To show all finances on one screen: incomes, accounts, expenses, and savings. Then I added a separate screen for tracking transactions like expenses, incomes, transfers between accounts, and adding money to savings. And it was pretty fine, and at this point I realized I actually have accounts in different currencies, and I can also have expenses in different currencies. So the only real solution here was to add multi-currency support. And even back then I knew this wouldn't be easy, but I had no idea how hard it would actually be. So first of all, I added support for multiple currencies to all account types and to transactions. It worked like that. When you create a new transaction and the source and the target currencies are different, I applied the current exchange rate and automatically convert the amounts. But there was one big problem. The exchange rate was always the current one. So even if I added a transaction from yesterday or from a week ago, the rate would still be today's rate, and it didn't make sense. So I decided to completely redesign this functionality so that the app would use the exchange rate that was valid for a specific date. And just in case, I also added an option for the user to manually enter a custom rate. When it comes to the section with the balance numbers on the main screen, which is, by the way, is called Money Map, all totals are shown in the currency selected by the user in settings. And I really like that when you change this currency to any other one, everything updates instantly. So after that, I moved on to analytics. At first, it was a screen with pretty complex charts and a lot of filters, but at some point I looked at all of these and asked myself, would I actually want to use that? And the answer was no, definitely no. So I completely redesigned analytics to answer one simple question: am I staying within my planned budget? As a result, I ended up with a pretty simple screen with two parts: an overall chart and expenses by category for the current period. I also added historical stats for the last 3, 6, and 12 periods, so you can see whether you stayed within your budget in the past or not. But the most interesting part started after that. I really wanted users to be able to use my app without internet. And at that moment, the app officially became so-called local first. And after I made my app offline, I had the next question. What if someone wants to use the same user account on multiple devices? For example, this is super convenient for couples or families where everyone adds their expenses and sees the real picture of shared finances. And implementing this feature took me 4 full months. The main problem is that if multiple devices work offline, at some point all this data has to be synced. And this is actually a very difficult problem because you need to have a solid conflict resolution strategy. For example, the same money account can be renamed on 2 different devices, and during synchronization the system has to correctly apply all changes and automatically resolve conflicts. And I spent so much time on this because I was basically learning the whole local first concept from scratch, along with different approaches to synchronization, conflict resolution. I read a lot of articles, watched tons of conference talks, and not just once, because I rarely understand things from the first try. try. I also want to separately mention double entry bookkeeping. This is another pretty big topic I had to learn to make sure all financial calculations are accurate. I already had some basic knowledge about that, but I knew that the app's functionality would probably grow, so I needed understanding of concepts like assets, liabilities, expenses, and so on. But for me, the most important thing and the most difficult thing, to be honest, is not just implementing those features. It is writing automated tests for those features, because this is the only way I can be sure that everything works correctly. Conflicts are resolved, balances are calculated correctly. At the moment of recording this video, I have 242 backend tests and around 100 tests in the mobile app. And I know that automated tests are a very unpopular topic, especially among indie developers. And I totally get why. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. Tests need to be maintained, and honestly, it is simply boring. But really, if you have auto tests, at least for your core functionality, all future change you make won't feel that scary, and you won't constantly think that everything will suddenly break. Yeah, maybe something will break, but not everything at least. Another big part of work on my app is infrastructure. I'm using AWS and I set up all the configuration by myself using Terraform. Setting up deployments for all services took me around 3, maybe even 4 weeks, but now I'm really happy that I don't need to manually go into the AWS user interface and change things by hand, because everything is pretty much automated. On top of that, there were many other things I had to learn and still have to learn. Swift, working with SQLite, privacy policy, terms of usage, Apple search optimization, screenshot, and a lot more. 3 years of development might sound crazy, and yes, it probably is. But I'll be honest with you, I never had a goal to build something as fast as possible. During this time, I gained a lot of valuable experience and knowledge, and most importantly, I genuinely enjoyed the process. And now I really want to finally share my app with other people, get feedback, and keep improving the app. So friends, I invite you to join the SpendBoard beta testing. The link, as always, is in the description. See you in the next one.